Good.
All right, good evening, everybody. We'll get started with tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Thank you. Welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Tonight's meeting is September 16th, 2025. In the event of a fire or other emergency, please follow the exit signs that are provided in this room and throughout Town Hall. Upon exiting this room, the main exits are located in the front and the rear of the building. Do not use the elevator during an emergency event. Live streaming and recorded meeting services is provided through the Town of Amherst YouTube channel at youtube.com/Town of Amherst, New York. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Bray,
Present.
Vice Chair Schubert,
Present.
Member Phillips, Member Parker, Member Gorgon.
Present.
Thank you. Also joined us here this evening is Zoning Enforcement Officer Daniel Latowski and Deputy Town Attorney Sebastian Odiata. Could I get, the first item on tonight's agenda is approval of the meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Member Gergen, second by Member Schubert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0. On to the hearings on appeals. The first item on tonight's agenda is 23095 North Forest Road, area variance. Would the applicant please come to the podium? Please say your name and address into the microphone when making a presentation, and make sure that it's written on the sheet above. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Sean Hopkins on behalf of the applicant, here this evening in connection with a minor variance being sought for the property at 2395 North Forest Road. This project received site plan approval approximately a decade ago. At that point in time, we weren't envisioning there would be a need at some point in the future for electrical vehicle charging stations. We are now adding 2 of those, which will be 4 ports that you can see highlighted in blue. As a result of that, with respect to those parking spaces, the zoning code requires a minimum depth of 19 feet. Those particular 4 spaces will have a depth of 17.5 feet. The layout of the electrical vehicle stations is not uncommon throughout the town of Amherst in West New York. Obviously, in terms of the balancing test and the 5 criteria set forth in New York State Town Law, Section 267B3B, there are benefits to the applicant being able to provide this technology to its tenants, a technology that's growing in use. And on the other hand, I don't think there are any detriments associated with this particular minor request. So with all that being said, and based on the documentation that was submitted with the application, respectfully, we would ask that you grant the requested area variance to allow those few parking spaces to have a depth of 17.5 feet versus strict code requirement, which is 19 feet.
Thank you. Does any member of the board have a question for the applicant? Is there any member of the audience here to speak on this item? All right, we'll close the hearing. Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Motion by Member Schubert, second by Member Phillips. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. The next item on tonight's agenda is National Grid Poll number 4665.
Hello, my name is Laura Smith. I'm with Nixon Peabody, and we represent the applicant Verizon Wireless. It's my understanding that the board received a full presentation from Jared Lusk at the last ZBA meeting where 6 sites within a cluster of a small cell site was presented. There was one of the small cell sites that was not properly addressed or was addressed at one of the locations, but the actual location of the small cell was between 2 addresses. So to ensure the notice was properly reflecting the location of that small cell, the one before you this evening was held and adjourned. So there's only one small cell application before you. It is the one located between 4655 and 4699 Harlem Road. All the plans are the same as what was presented at the August meeting, but I'm happy to take any questions if the board has any questions.
Sir, any questions for the applicant? All right, is there any member of the audience here to speak on this item? We'll close the hearing. Is Member Gergen, you have to recuse yourself from this item?
Yes, I'll be recusing myself.
We have to issue a negative deck for this application first. So is there a motion on the negative deck? Motion by Member Phillips, second by Member Schubert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes 4-0. Is there a motion for approval on this item? Motion by Member Phillips, second by Member Schubert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And with Member Gergen abstaining, so that passes 4-0. Thank you very much. The next item on tonight's agenda is 4845 Millersport Highway. Please make sure to say your name and address into the microphone.
Good evening, Dan Kraskowski from the law firm of Barclay Damon, here on behalf of Upstate Tower and its affiliate Dogwood Tower. Tonight we're proposing two sister wireless facilities here in the town of Amherst. The first, 485 Millersport Highway, is this item on the agenda. The second is 1042 North Forest Road. So at the jump, I just want to say both towers are being proposed in coordination with the town. Part of this is to alleviate cell coverage and emergency services gaps here within the town. This has been an iterative process with the town. We've met many times to discuss these sites. I also would like to note that we're not asking for a decision tonight. We still need to finalize seeker approval or seeker lead agency solicitation and 239 county referral. So tonight we really would like to answer questions to the extent possible from the public, from the board. Happy to respond in writing as well, and be back next month, to hopefully move forward with seeker and continue with the public hearing. So with that, I'll move into 485 Millersport. As the town is aware, this is the town-owned property located in the Community Facilities District. This is already disturbed. There is an existing tower on this site. It's 150 feet with attachments. It's roughly 170 feet. We're proposing a 180-foot tower roughly in the same location on this parcel. Again, as mentioned, this is a private and public partnership. The town emergency services would be on the top portion of this tower from roughly 160 feet to 180 feet. Beneath that, there are room for more attachers. Impact Internet has committed to attaching to this. That's in the application materials before you, and there are room for more attachers after that. Next slide, please. So this just gives you an idea of the location set back on that parcel. Roughly on the right, you'll see where we're proposing to place this. We are requesting some waivers related to this. Ones I want to highlight are the maximum tower height here in the town. Usually towers are 100 feet tall. We are requesting to build a 180-foot tall lattice tower. The reason for this is that by getting to 180 feet, we can improve coverage both for the town's emergency services and for other attachers. As you'll see in our prop maps, this is an area of the town that struggles with service. People know this is a dead zone. And by allowing us to go higher, we get more attachers and increased service, which I will discuss when looking at the prop maps. The lattice tower reasoning is for a similar reason. It allows for more people to attach. We can go a little higher, and this is going to decrease the need for other towers within the town. And as for the setback, here we're requesting, we are 203 feet from a residential district. Normally that would be 500 feet. However, there are no homes along Millersport, and we're still 500 feet from dwelling units, which we do feel is this, we meet the spirit of the law with that. And if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just cut out from our plans, gives you an idea of the tower and what it would look like. As you can see, it's a 180-foot lattice-style self-support tower. At the top portion there, from 160 to 180, the town would attach their own equipment for emergency services. Below that, we have Impact at roughly 150, and then there's room for 3 more beneath that. Open to co-location would decrease need for other towers in the town, as mentioned. Do want to mention in terms of lighting and color of this tower, we did do, in your materials, the FAA notice. Due to the proximity to the Clarence Airport, we kind of have 2 options here. We could have the tower painted kind of a typical gray color. With that, we would need a daytime light. It's kind of that white flashing that some of you may have seen on towers around the area. Regardless, we do need a nighttime light due again to the location. near the airport. However, if we wanted to, and we're open to a condition on approval of painting a more traditional galvanized gray, that's when we have the white light, or you can go with the red and white painting, which some people like, some people don't like. It's kind of a matter of a preference of the board, but those would be the two differences between how the tower would appear in terms of lighting and painting. We are, yeah, as mentioned, the 150 tower is already there, and the fence compound here is 60 by 60. Next slide, please. So these are the prop maps which I've discussed. As you can see, the existing coverage without the tower, the north part of the town, that purple is good coverage. There are coverage gaps, and down further, that's the Buff 719 tower. I think it's near the tavern. You have excellent coverage down there, but the further north you go, and as some people in the town may be familiar with, you lose service. If you go to the next slide, what happens here is we're able to connect those excellent service territories and really expand out north within the town. The way this works, it's kind of like children's walkie-talkies. You know, I'm no engineer, I'm just a lawyer, but they need to be able to talk to each other to relay signals. And right now, due to the gap, you're having drops people are experiencing, both from emergency services and just cell usage north of the town in that area. Some calls are dropping, so we feel this would alleviate that as shown with the prop maps. We do have visual simulations. That's Exhibit 20 of our submission. These are some choice views. This is looking east from Millersport Highway. Don't want to try to diminish that this tower will be visible, but it is set back. It is congruous with the tree line, and our distances. The impact we do feel is minimum. This is northeast from Shoreline Parkway, and then on the next slide, you'll see another visual from Shoreline Parkway as well, looking west. Again, there is an existing tower in this area. We are higher than that by about 10 feet. If you put a lightning rod, it could be 14 feet higher, but in terms of visual difference between what we're proposing and what's already in the area, we feel the difference is pretty minimal. So with that, before I move on to 508, I would like to open it up to you all, to the public, and answer questions to the best.
Mr. Chairman, we do have Brandon Peters, the town's emergency services coordinator here, as well as Captain Richard Phillips from the police department, who can speak to the town's need for emergency communications, particularly in the north end. If either gentleman would like to offer an introduction and explain the town's need in this application.
We would appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, Joyce. Sorry about that.
Hi, my name is Richard Phillips. I'm the Technical Services Officer for the Amherst Police Department. Just to clarify the title in there, I take the promotion, but I don't think you can give that. I just wanted to take an opportunity, first of all, to thank you for hearing us on this and thank the public for listening to us on this. This has been a project that's been a long time in the making. We have some serious communications gaps in the town, both radio and cellular. This actually addresses both of the issues that we have. Primarily, the issue is, in this section of the town we're looking at is a serious gap in emergency communications. We're unable to talk with our officers in critical situations. That includes fire department members, emergency medical services also. We maintain radio systems that cover all of this. The problem is our failover, the other thing that we use is network data that comes from cell towers. And unfortunately, this area also has a similar issue where we're dealing with like major network gaps where we have no communications with our cars. So we have officers, firemen, EMS that are on scene at these, and they are unable to communicate. They're unable to release keys from their vehicles to unlock doors, and it just puts the public at risk. We've tried to engineer solutions for this that kind of keep our intrusion into the public to a minimum. But unfortunately, height and towers, that's really the only way we can get around some of the obstructions that we're trying to do. So a lot of these have been, thought out and thoughtfully placed, and they're in locations where we know we need them. This one, obviously, for emergency up north. The tower you'll hear next will be, regarding our highway department, who we use as a partner for heavy equipment all the time. And if we end up not proceeding with a radio upgrade we're looking to do that would bring highway department in with us, we would lose the ability to communicate with them again. And that tower that we're placing there would allow us to at least, have some semi-decent communication with them and be able to talk back and forth. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Again, I'm trying to keep this short. I could talk for 5 hours about this stuff, and I know everybody doesn't want to hear that.
Could you give us an example of a risk to a first responder if there's a drop call or something like that?
Sure. We put out warnings that addresses all the time, right? So we know that something's going on. Officers on location, something critical is going on. We use radios on scene to communicate with each other. Unfortunately, the way that radios work, If we were in a small area, we could use simplex radios, which means they just kind of talk to each other directly, right? Because of the size of the town and the area that we cover, we actually have multiple receive and transmit sites that are situated throughout the town. And our system basically decides which is the best, chooses that, and allows our radio to talk through it. The problem is you could have an officer on one side of that building and an officer on the other side of that building who key up their microphone, or a firefighter or a paramedic. You key up that microphone, there's no communication that comes out on the other end of it. It's silence because that radio traffic has to transmit from this little portable radio in their hands back to a tower somewhere, and from that tower it then goes back to all the other radios. So that's really our biggest concern, is those like emergency gaps. A lot of the other stuff is, I guess, more administrative, tasks, and obviously a lot of traffic that we put out has multiple purposes. But again, the main focus of what we're concerned with are those really urgent things.
So in an emergency situation, a failure could be catastrophic.
Absolutely, and fire departments, when they're up there, we know how thinly strong our fire departments are right now, right? They need help from other agencies, they need help from other departments that are around them, so it's normal for them to call for assistance. Unfortunately, that call isn't always heard, and I hear it every day, on both sides of this, both police, fire, and again, coming back to our locking systems and all that, we need to be able to release keys, we need to be able to do all sorts of stuff, and we need our network in order to be able to do that.
Thank you. Does any other member of the board have a question? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Want to continue with the next
Yes.
site? Let's just do both of them first because they're related, then we'll take comments from the public.
Okay. So yes, next site is Buff 508. As mentioned, this is at 1042 North Forest Road, is where the town engineering and highway departments are. Again, a private and public partnership. As mentioned, the town would be on top of this tower for those emergency services. For this tower, we have Verizon, Dish Wireless, and Impact Internet committed to attaching. There is still room for another attacher as well. We are committed to co-location. I think it's important to note the history of this site. As mentioned, this has been kind of a long time coming. It was previously approved in 2019 for telecom towers. For a variety of reasons, it was never built. But this site has been contemplated before as being a good area to site these for a lot of the coverage reasons we've gone through. So this gives you an idea of where on the site we would be. We would be in the back corner near the creek, roughly 1,200 feet, give or take, from the road. In terms of our waiver requests, again, similar reasoning on lattice style and tower height. This allows us to get up to that 160, 180 to transmit town emergency services and have other attachers. Would also note here, we are asking for a slightly smaller fenced area. We feel this is appropriate due to site constraints, as you saw with the creek, and due to the fact it's already an impacted parcel. So normally the requirement would be about a quarter of the tower height, 45 by 45. We're going to fence our proposal is a 40 by 70 fenced area. This is greater in square footage than what's required, but just a little smaller on one side, again, due to those site constraints. And as for the setbacks, which should also talk to, in this situation, we are again within, you normally would be required to be 500 feet away from a residential district. Here we're 331 feet to the Res 3 district and 450 feet to the multifamily 4. However, the closest home is across the creek and shielded by trees. So we do feel by siting where we are, it's an appropriate area considering those constraints. Again, this is the design of the tower, very similar, 180 feet, the top for the town, with the commitments that I've mentioned attaching beneath that, Impact, Verizon, and Dish, with room for another co-locator. Here, because we're further away, we don't have the same lighting requirements from the FAA. There is no proposed lighting subject to final confirmation, but it's a difference between this tower and the one previously discussed. And again, as I mentioned, the fence compound's a little bit different size for this due to where we're siting the tower on the site. And as for the coverage gaps, again, as you can see, we have this known coverage gap here. This is before the tower. As mentioned, these towers have to communicate with each other to not drop calls. So this is before existing coverage in the area, and now after. As you can see, we've really filled in that area and have excellent coverage, both at the country club, at the town facilities, and throughout the northern portion of the town. Some visuals for you. On the right is our proposed tower. On the left is existing. This is a little bit different viewpoint further down the road, but to give you an idea of the visual impact. Again, this is on Knoll Drive, roughly 2,000 feet away, proposed tower off in the distance. And looking at it from Maple Road again, a little taller than tree line, but visually we feel minimizing impact from viewpoints. And I would for both towers that we do feel we've met the special use permit criteria, and again are requesting those waivers discussed. We're enhancing cell coverage here within the town. You've heard about the gaps for both areas for emergency services for cell coverage. Some might have personal experience with that. We're also going to provide more competition for in-home internet. This is kind of a growing area. Impact Internet is providing this. Some people love it, some people don't, but that's ability to co-locate on this tower as well. We strengthen emergency radio coverage for the town, and we use impacted land that's municipally owned, so we don't have to go out to other sites. And as mentioned, by allowing a 180 tower, we do feel that it would decrease the need for other towers within the town by permitting these two. So thank you.
Thank you. Does any member of the board have a question?
So why wasn't the tower built after the 2019?
I think there were a variety of business reasons for that, and I think height-wise was discussed. We can answer in writing a more complete answer onto what exactly happened, but it didn't go forward, I think, partially due to attachers, but can provide more information if you'd like.
And is the public interest, public safety rationale similar between towers 1 and 2?
Yeah, and that's why it's reserved from 160 to 180 for the town in both locations, is by getting to that higher height, we're allowing for emergency services and really making that the priority. Because by the highest height you can have is obviously generally how you're going to propagate out the furthest. So by allowing the town to be up high, you're getting the furthest distance to connect those and bring down the need, whereas other attachers are going to be below that. Typically in other scenarios, a different attacher, Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever, could be at that higher height to have a different propagation, but here the priority is the town. Yep.
All right, thank you. So the public, is any member of the public here to speak on 4845 Millersport Highway? Why don't you come to the podium?
Good evening. Yeah, my name is Todd Kluche. I'm one of the owners of 4845A, which is the adjacent parcel, as well as Verite Technology, Inc., which is the business located at that location. We really don't have any objection to the tower itself, but not having seen like a site plan for it, I just want to ensure that as this goes forward, that our access to our property, which is through 4845, is still maintained. So again, we can access our property and access our business through there. Aside from that, that's really my only concern, and I understand, talking to the officers that do come out there periodically, the need for additional communications in the northern part of Amherst. So the tower itself is, we don't object to that.
All right, thank you. Is anyone else here to speak on 4845 Miller Sports? Are you able to address the comments on access to?
Yeah, I think we can confirm in writing, but it would only be during construction where there could be a possible gap due to vehicles being there, but that we could obviously be in contact about when that would be occurring. But thank you.
All right, is any member of the public here to speak on 1042 North Forest Road? Okay, so my understanding is that the comment period for the seeker is still open. Is that correct, Mr. Lutowski?
That is correct. I believe it's open till October 8th.
All right, so I believe we should probably adjourn this item tonight, leaving the hearing open. That way, any member of the public who wants to speak on this item at the next meeting still has that opportunity. So could I get a motion to adjourn number 3 for 4845 Millersport Highway? Motion by member Phillips, second by member Schubert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that item is adjourned. And number 4, 1042 North Forest Road. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by member Phillips, second by member Schubert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that item is adjourned 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the 5th item on tonight's agenda is 40 Ayer Road. Would the applicant please come to the podium?
Good evening. My name's Dan Nealon. I'm the property owner at 40 Air Road, and I'm requesting a variance to build a garage at the back of my property. Here we see the proposed garage with access from Wickeden, and that shows the need. The motorhome and the trailer are basically all that's going to be in that garage. It's just going to help clean up the property, make it neater, make it safer.
So what's the size of the garage going to be?
48 by 32.
How many square footage that is altogether? I can't do, trying to do the math in my head really quickly. Is that the 2,100 number that's in the
Yeah,
resolution?
2112.
So could you explain the need for such a large garage?
If we go forward to the pictures at the end of the presentation. Actually, to the pictures at the end. Nope. There should be more. There we go. That's the need. I would like to make that go away. My neighborhood would like that to go away. So proposing the garage behind the house, off the cul-de-sac side, just hides it, keeps it clean, makes my wife happy.
Have you spoken to the neighbors that are most directly impacted by
The
this?
immediate neighbors are all in favor of the project. And I haven't had any negative comments, so.
All right. Does any member of the board have a question?
Yeah, will you need to have a curb cut approved to get
Yes.
out to Wickenden?
And I have talked to the highway department. As long as I am 50 feet from Air Road, I can cut a 32-foot curb, which I don't need anything that wide anyways.
Is there any additional questions for the applicant? Is any member of the public here to speak on this item? Okay, we'll close the hearing. Is there any motions?
Move to approve.
Motion by member Schubert,
Second.
second by member Gergen. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on tonight's agenda is a special use permit for 35 Troy Del Way. Would the applicant please come to the podium?
Hello, my name's Angelo Tomasello. I'm the owner of 35 Troy Del Way. I have with me Holly Tomasello, who is the current resident and has been since 2011, so about 14 years. This project involves the construction of an approximate 900 square foot accessory dwelling unit that will extend from the existing residence. The ADU will be created by converting the current garage into living space / kitchen area and adding a new addition to include a bedroom, flexible storage office space, and a dedicated independent entryway to ensure privacy and accessibility. The existing garage is being converted into part of the ADU, and given it was not suitable for a wheelchair accessible van, the project also includes a newly constructed garage specifically designed to accommodate Holly's rear entry wheelchair van. Care has been taken in the design to ensure the ADU and garage blend seamlessly with the existing home and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Holly has been residing in the home since 2011. She's a long-term Amherst resident. She's a young professional who attended Williamsville schools and now serves the community as a licensed mental health counselor. Due to her physical disability, she requires 24-hour caregiver support. Post-COVID, the challenge of securing reliable staff has grown significantly. The ADU will provide dedicated living quarters for her caregivers, one at a time. improving stability, safety, and quality of life while supporting her continued independence and professional contributions to the community. We're very grateful for your consideration in this endeavor.
All right, thank you. Does any member of the board have a question?
I just had one question. I was trying to, you're converting where's the current garage?
If you go back to the first page that you had, scroll down, it's where you first had it open. It'd be right there. Where it says the word ADU living, that's the current garage. So we're taking the back portion of the driveway, adding. It's currently a side entrance.
Got it. Okay, I was trying to figure that out.
Yes. So, the new garage is, the width, it's a little bit narrower, I believe, just eyeballing it. It's slightly deeper, but that's primarily due to Holly having a rear entry wheelchair van. And then, make my life easier. Holly is my daughter, but I don't live with her. So, and for when I'm no longer around, to be able to have a caregiver living there just allows her to be independent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, any member of the public here to speak on this item? Please come to the podium. Make sure you say your name and address into the microphone and write it down on the sheet on there if you have not already.
Hi, my name is Amy Graves, Professor Amy Graves Monroe, and I live at 45 Troydale Way, which is right next door to Holly. How you doing? I just wanted to get a sense of exactly what was going on here, because I wanted to make sure that the residents will not have a second floor, because I would really like to keep the privacy of my backyard. And I wanted to make sure that the curb cut would look like the other residences near mine, right? Like the curb cut's going to be the same. I mean, I know the garage, you could come in from the side. Also of some concern to me is that should my good neighbor and friend Holly no longer be living there, that I didn't want it to turn into an Airbnb. I didn't want it to, that the person living there, that it not be a rental property of any kind. I mean, like I literally live right next door with my young son. So I would like to make sure that, that those things are kind of taken care of, Holly. Yeah. Hi, Anthony. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I think everything that we plan.
You can address your comments to the chair.
Okay. Yes. We are proposing a slightly wider driveway. I don't believe the curb cut will get it, any wider. I'm trying to remember all her questions. There is no second story residence. Everything will be on the first floor, first level. And my understanding with the special use permit is it's authorizing her for this particular use. My full expectation is if Holly no longer resides there, then it'll just become it'll just be a single family and used for that sole use. Potentially, someone may use it as an in-law or a teenager or something.
So,
but yes.
Mr. Yelotowski, can you?
It will have to remain owner occupied. If the current owner desires to sell it many years from now, a new petitioner would come before you seeking a similar request.
Thank you. All right, is there any other questions for the, or any other member of the public here to speak on this item? All right, we'll close the hearing then. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Motion by member Gergen, second by member Parker. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on tonight's agenda is 97 Halston Parkway. The applicant, please come to the podium.
Good evening, Board. I'm Jim Bamel from Bamel Architects, here with Mike DeGluce, who is the homeowner at 97 Halston. We are looking to add an accessory structure at the south end of the existing driveway with a side yard setback request of 1'8" where 3 feet is required. It's basically going to be allow the pool storage and a little cabana place to be and still preserve yard space for people to be able to use on the other side. We did try to relocate it in the other corner of the property, but there's a 10-foot private easement at the south end of the property that makes access to that area very difficult to get to for service. So we have approached the neighbors on either the east side and across the street. There are letters of support from them here that we can give you copies of. It would be a 1-story piece, and again, the facade would be made to look like it's always been there with the district.
Thank you. So they've handed me letters of support from residents at 105 Helston and 96 Helston. If anyone wants to take a look. All right, is there any questions for the applicant? Is any member of the audience here to speak on this item? Okay, I will close the hearing then. Do either of you need to see the letters? Sure. I had a motion for approval by member Schubert. Second by member Phillips. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The next item on tonight's agenda is 2016 Dodge Road. We got a correspondence from the petitioner, Kevin Michael, regarding 2016 Dodge Road. He cannot attend the meeting, but he'd like for us to vote on the petition in his absence. This item was reviewed at the August 19th meeting. Is any member of the audience here to speak on this item? Okay. Do we want to hold for the next meeting, or do we want to take on the request of the petitioner?
There's no guarantee. He works out of town.
So the petitioner is requesting to build a garage will have a total building area of 1,536 square feet for all accessory buildings, including the attached garage, whereas the zoning ordinance limits accessory buildings to a maximum of 1,119.
Yeah, I am too.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by member Phillips, second by member Schubert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0. The next item on tonight's agenda is 1260 Smith Road. Would the applicant please come to the podium? Is there anyone here to speak on 1260? Dodge?
No, no.
Oh. No one's is here to speak on 1260? So I'm a little reluctant. I just want to create the practice where we are routinely approving items in which it's not enough of a priority for the petitioner to actually come to a meeting. I mean, is anyone here to speak on this item from the audience? Okay, so would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Member Schubert make a motion to approve. Is there a second? I am not hearing a second. Is there a motion to deny? Motion by Member Phillips. Is there a second to that? It's one or the others, folks.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Member Gergen to adjourn.
I'll
Member
second that.
Second by Member Schubert. All in favor of adjourning the item, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that 4-1. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on tonight's agenda is 280 Gettsville Road. Is the applicant here? Is anyone here on 280 Gettsville Road?
Just to make sure we had no requests for adjournments, no withdrawal.
I've had no communications with the petitioner. Has the town clerk?
Is there a motion?
I move to deny.
Second.
Motion by Member Schubert, second by Member Phillips. All in favor of denial, say aye.
Mr. Chair, I would ask that you go through the five-part test.
Member Phillips, you made the motion.
All right, character of the neighborhood. Describe whether desirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or if the detriment to nearby properties will be granted. We did have opposition to this project at the last hearing. Predominantly because it was a two-story addition, yet it was so close to the property line. It appears that the neighborhood is mostly, as I recall, ranch-style homes, and therefore the character of the neighborhood would be significantly changed in my opinion. Whether or not there are other feasible alternatives, there were some proposals and some suggestions by the public on how they could otherwise obtain the space. We have not been shown why that is not an option, i.e. is there an easement or something that would prohibit them from building out on the back of the property? Is it substantial? It is a substantial change. It is quite high and it's quite close to the neighbors. Physical or environmental. Will it have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? I think the neighbors raised very valid concerns on potential impacts to their property. We have not, I think I asked the petitioner at the last hearing to come with responses to those concerns that they've not shown up today. And whether or not it's self-created is
All right, went over the balancing test. You still have to vote on that, so All in favor of the motion to deny, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the denial passes 5-0. Thank you very much. The next item on tonight's agenda is 438 Caledine Avenue. Is the applicant here?
Question, was this the, I don't remember. Is this the fence that had the lights on it the one time?
Yes. Greg, can you go to the before picture? Yeah, right. So at the meeting prior to, I think it was the June meeting, the petitioner was here. It was discovered that the fence was actually in the town right away. The board directed the petitioner to communicate with the building department for correction. The petitioner moved the fence out of the right of way. It's now a foot onto his property. So it is now out of the right of way. It still exceeds the maximum height of 3 feet allowed in the front yard. So it's a 4.5-foot high fence in the required front yard. So the petitioner still needs the relief that he originally requested. I provided the zoning board a memorandum showing this exhibit as well as the previous exhibit, and I'm asking that if you should consider granting the relief, that you consider adding 2 conditions, one of which is the removal of the trampoline from the front yard. It's not a permitted encroachment pursuant to section 2-5-2A parentheses 1, and that to preserve the transparency of the fence, that any future privacy sliding or solid material screening not be permitted, so as to allow the neighbors to safely back out of their driveways.
Thank you. Is any member of the public here to speak on this item? Okay, I think we'll close the hearing on this one. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by member Phillips, second by member Schubert. I have a question for Mr. Ulatowski. Did the town communicate to the applicant at all that even if he moved his fence, that the town could still deny? I'm worried that it was communicated to him that he was in the right of way. He spent a considerable amount of funds potentially moving the fence, and if we deny, I don't want to put the town into.
Again, there has always historically been a communication, an inability to adequately communicate with the petitioner, language barrier. I can't confirm whether or not he fully understood what the ramifications were. The fence was installed in violation. He was fully advised of that. He sought an option of seeking relief, and he's still in violation until such time that a decision is made on this petition.
Thank you. All right, should we go through the balancing test on this one again? So I'll do it for this one. Whether create an undesirable change will be introduced in the character of the neighborhood. Yes, no other property in that area has a similar fence exceeding the limits. So this would be the first, and it would be an undesirable change that would not be welcome among his neighbors. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance, but probably not. The next one is whether the requested area variance is substantial. I would say yes, it is substantial. It is exceeding the fence height for the front yard. That is the first time I've recalled on the zoning board of having a similar type of request. So I believe that would be substantial to allow it for the front yard. whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Yes, it will. It'll be an eyesore for the neighbors. And whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, yes, it was. He chose to install the fence. So let's take a vote on the motion to deny. All in favor of denial, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's been denied 5-0. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 43 Linwood Avenue. Would the applicant please come to the podium?
Yes, good evening once again. Sean Hopkins on behalf of the applicant, 5000 Group LLC, care of Ellicott Development. It is important to note this is a continuation of a public hearing that was held by this board on August 19th. Next slide. So we have two variance applications that are in front of you this evening. One is for 37 Linwood, which is directly to the north facing Main Street towards the upper side of the slide, and 43 Linwood. We're seeking an area variance to allow the back portion of that site to be subdivided off and merged with 5195 Main Street, which is the mosey that's located on Main Street and South Forest. Next slide. It's a photograph of the existing home. Next slide. There's a photograph of the lot. So this property is zoned R4, currently consists of a 1,814 square foot two-family home with a lot size of 0.23 acres. We're trying to split off the back portion of that lot and merge it with 5195. As such, the lot would then consist of 0.15 acres. Next slide. So this is the plan that we presented during the public hearing held on August. As I indicated at that meeting, that I would reach out to the people that spoke during the public hearing and that we would make an effort to meet with them. We did hold a meeting with them on August 30th, actually on site, or actually on September 5th on site. And basically they expressed several concerns. But their biggest concern at this juncture was the encroachment of what we were showing of approximately 8 or 9 parking spaces into that current property. Keeping in mind it's not currently zoned for that use. It's zoned R4. Go to the next slide. So what we've done is we've gone back to the ownership team and found out, is that parking really necessary now? And the answer is no, it's not necessary now. However, we do have both these homes are listed for sale, and one is actually under contract. So we'd still like to go ahead and create the small lot split. So you can see the updated plan that we've submitted dated September 15th. We are not showing any parking. I asked the applicant today, when would be the soonest that that may occur? And they said there's absolutely no chance, 0% chance, that will occur anytime within the next 2 years. It's also important to note that if and when that is proposed, that property would need to be rezoned. I mean, there'd be a series of public hearings, including a hearing held by the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we'd like to do it, but we're not going to propose any parking at this time. Next slide. We do think it's clear that the granting of this requested area variance is consistent with the balancing test and the 5 criteria set forth in New York State Town Law, Section 267B3B. Given now that we've eliminated the proposed parking, we think it's quite clear that granting the requested relief will not result in an undesirable change of the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. There is no feasible alternative that would allow us to preserve this additional land for if and when in the future there's a need for expanded parking at 5195 Main Street, which is criteria 2. Next slide. Criteria 3, we do not think the request is substantial. Criteria number 4, whether the granting of the requested area variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. No, this is a type 2 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, meaning categorically it will not have any adverse environmental impacts. And then finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. As always, it could be viewed that way, given that we do have knowledge of the R4 zoning code. However, overall, the balancing test and 4 of the 5 criteria do provide ample justification for the granting of the requested relief. So with that being said, we would ask you to grant the requested area variance. And of course, I would welcome the opportunity to answer any questions that any of you may have.
So you'll be creating non-conforming lots for the 2 houses?
Yeah, for this particular one, because it's a two-family home, yes, both of them require variances for lot area.
And it's just for land banking. You don't have any immediate need for the additional land.
Absolutely for land banking.
Uh, Then why now instead of when you do need it?
We're selling the homes. So both these homes were bought because they were adjacent to the project site. Both are listed and one's actually under contract as we speak, and the contract is contingent on this approval. But the big question that was asked by the residents, and I believe a couple of the board members asked it last time too, was, is this parking really necessary and is the investment justified? And the answer to that is, at this point in time, no. However, if we don't do it now, that land obviously will no longer be part of the overall 5195 Main Street assemblage. I also want to note, do you want to go back? We are also showing, go one slide forward. We are also going to install a new fence along the rear of what will be the property lines after the conveyance. So you see that green line on the right-hand side of the blue arrow there, going north to south. That will be a new fence. If you want to make that a condition that we install a new 6-foot fence along the rear of the new property line, we'd be fine with that.
Member Schubert?
I would like to make a condition that you never have parking there. There's no guarantee that won't become parking after 2 years.
No, and we're not saying, and I guess, Mr. Schubert, what we're saying is that's the only reason we're keeping it. At some point in the future, it might be parking.
Will be.
Might be.
Let's say will.
If the board wanted to put a condition for a minimum time frame, we'd be willing to entertain that. Meaning if you want to say for the next 2 years, 3 years, that's something we'd be willing to entertain. And again, with it being clear that if and when parking is proposed there, it will require rezoning. So there's a separate review process.
Mr.
I would suggest that. It's just,
Could you explain the process and the hearings that would be required if they wanted to put parking on that site in the future?
It would be a lengthy process. The first process would be a rezoning request, which would go to the planning board for recommendation and then the town board for an ultimate decision. At both junctures, there would be a public comment period for anyone within 600 feet. If they are successful in rezoning the small addition to their parcel, then they would have to go to the planning board for a public hearing for an amendment to the previously approved site plan. So it's certainly not out of the question, but ultimately it's up to the town board and their legislative discretion to approve a rezoning of that parcel. I would ask that if there is any consideration that the parcel not be orphaned, that it be merged with the parcel to the west.
Yes, that is, I want to make that clear. Thank you, Mr. Witowski. Yes, so if this is approved, immediately those two back ends will be merged with 5195. And as Mr. Witowski indicated, there would be a minimum of 3 public hearings if and when they need the additional parking. And if you want to put a minimum time frame of 2 years, meaning we're not going to ask for this to get approved and then come back and say, well, residents, we changed our mind a month from now. We're okay with that.
So the whole purpose is to allow consummation of the sale.
Exactly. And one of the houses is under contract.
And the purchasers are fully aware.
It's based on these surveys, yes. And again, that was the primary concern we heard from the residents, was the parking.
All right, is there anyone from the public here to speak on this item? The microphone, make sure you say your name and address into the microphone, as well as make sure it is written down on the sheets. Sign your name.
Hi, my name's Annette Schnapp, and I'm the owner of 31 Linwood. I have a picture, I took a picture today of exactly where they want to put the parking lot, right on the other side of my fence, and you can see how close it is to the inside of my house. Can I bring the phone up and show you guys?
Yes.
Or you can take my phone.
You said 31?
We're going to try to pull up an aerial image as well, if that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So she's the house, right there, you got it.
Yep. And then what is the parking lot behind you currently?
That is for there's no activity.
You want to go to the microphone, please?
The only people that use the back parking lot is Burn, which is a workout facility, and they have classes 2, sometimes 3 times a day. And I think they're done by like 6:30 at night. So it's very quiet. There's no activity in the evening. And on the other side is where Break and Eggs used to be, or Trattoria. Well, now there's no activity there without Break and Eggs. In Trattoria, most people park out front. So it's very quiet. Now, 2 days ago, someone's car alarm was going off in the hotel parking lot. It went off longer than a half an hour. I can't imagine this happening on the other side of my fence and me not knowing whose car it is, where's it coming from. It's definitely for the hotel, but I can't stop it. I'm working from home. I can't have that going on. And they also allowed RVs. They had some sort of function going on, and they had all these RVs, sound system in the back parking lot of the hotel. So if they want to convert that into parking in the back, are they going to be having all that going on next to my house?
So the presentation that he provided said that was going to, that there was no plans to turn that into
Well,
parking.
why do they need it?
It is, we're not going to plan it to turn into parking within the next 2 years. If they wanted to turn it into parking, as explained by the zoning enforcement officer, Mr. Ulatowski, that they would require to have several other public hearings for the public to comment on that proposal. So what is before the zoning board right now is the variance to split the lots to those requested sizes.
I understand
So
all that.
we're not here right now to talk about potential parking. We're here to talk about the size of the width of the lots.
I understand that. So they're not going to be using that, so it's just going to grow up with weeds. Who's taking care of that? If they're putting a 6-foot fence, how are they going to access it to take care of it? It's a 4-foot drop from the back parking lot to the property line, the backyard property line. So how is that going to be maintained? And the thing is, you're saying they're not going to try, maybe do this for 2 months. Well, in 2 years, we're going through this again. And then we have to come here again. That's not fair to us. This is residential property. And it's a 4-bedroom house, like I said, next door. How are they going to sell a 4-bedroom house with no backyard? It's just very upsetting to me that I'm having to like deal with this and potentially have RVs and car alarms going off and overhead light literally right next to my house. I mean, I have the picture. It's right, I mean, it's only like 20 feet from where my den is.
Is there any questions for the presenter, the member of the public? Right.
David,
Thank
did
you.
want-
Is there anyone else would like to make a comment? Then Mr. Hopkins will let you speak at the end to address any comments.
My name's David Hall, and I live at 47 Linwood. So I live on the other side of that house. And my biggest concern is the property will actually be landlocked. Because I already have parking lot behind me. And then I'm going to have this open area that's going to be open area, and it'll probably be green space, but I know they'll use it for recreation. Because they've been doing recreation things at the Mosey, and they've hosted different things. And then there's like a 4-foot drop, 3 to 4 foot drop from the existing parking lot down to the end of my lot. So there's going to have to be some type of, I don't know how they're going to do it, to access that property from, because it's going to be attached to, was it 5122 or whatever the address is on the corner. That property will belong to that existing property there. So in order for them to access it, there's going to have to be all kinds of grade work done. And it's basically landlocked. And I understand that right now it'll be considered, it's residential, but if it's still going to be green space, and I just see no reason to cut that off. It's a residential neighborhood. It's residential all the way down, all the way the other way, and it's been that way for years. And there's just really no need for that small of an area, because I know eventually they'll be back to give it zone for parking. And I think 2 years isn't a very long time. I think it should be more like 10. But they can't do that. Come back and have it rezoned for commercial. Because there's just, the place was built and the required number of parking is there to substantiate the approval of building the building to begin. So I don't really see why they need additional property. Residential property, that is, because it's not a residential business, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak on this item? Come to the microphone. Mr. Hopkins or someone else?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Hello, good evening. My name is Derek Pruitt. I am the owner of 59 Linwood. So I'm kind of here on behalf of my father-in-law, who owns 53 Linwood as well. I think my fears are a lot of the same fears echoed by fellow neighbors. First being, why? Like, I understand in the future you want to make a land bank, and I understand 2 years down the line, okay. Inevitably, like Annette said, we're going to go through the same process. You're still going to want, or the owners of the hotel are still going to want to put in 6 to 8 parking spots. For what? You have, like David had mentioned, you have a residential street with similar sized lots throughout the same, and you're going to go chop off roughly 30% of these existing lots, and like you had mentioned, making them non-conforming. The one property is under contract. The other property has been on the market for over 120 days. They've reduced the price 3 or 4 times now. If that doesn't say it's not desirable, I kind of don't know what is. I wouldn't want to buy a house I have a young family. I wouldn't want to buy a house that doesn't have a backyard. If you actually look, there is a deck coming off of that house, and where that fence is, you have 15 or 20 feet of green space. When you look at the advertisement for this listing of the house, it talks about the green space and all the areas you're going to have for, family running around. That's not it. So it's misleading, and I think to kick this can down the road 2 years is not fair to the residents. It's not fair to the board. It's not fair to take up our time. I would appreciate it if the board would make a movement to deny this request, but that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak on this item? All right, Mr. Hopkins, do you want to reply to the comments?
Sean Hopkins once again. So again, the only reason we're doing this now is because we're selling these homes. They've been used as rentals. We think they'll be better off being sold, hopefully by new owners. So this one is under contract, 37. The other one will be under contract, hopefully, regardless of what the price will need to be. So we got a 2-family home and a 1-family home. In terms of there being potential use for commercial purposes other than parking, the board wants to put a further condition saying there shall be no commercial use of the property whatsoever. That's fine. It's not permitted by the R4 zoning. And then 5th, in terms of or the final point, in terms of how it will be maintained, once it's merged with 5195 Main Street, it will become part of the owner's responsibility to maintain that in accordance. There'll be a new fence line established, so you want to put a condition in terms of that as well. If you go back there today, there are some nice trees and ample green space, but I think we've addressed the concerns. I do appreciate Annette and David and Eric speaking on behalf of his mother-in-law being here. We've tried to modify the plan, but this is the only opportunity we have to do this, meaning if we could wait and have this discussion 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, if and when that parking was needed, we would, but we simply can't because we're trying to sell it. So in terms of reasonable conditions, if and when we come back for parking at some point in the future, it's a minimum of 3 public hearings, and we know the burden will be on us. It is somewhat inconvenience to Annette, David, et cetera, but that's the process. So respectfully, we would ask that you approve it subject to those reasonable conditions. And if we want to go over those, we certainly can.
Just one, why not seek rezoning of the property now?
Why not what?
Seek rezoning of the property.
Because we don't know if we need the parking. We're only going to do that if and when we need it. Again, that's an extremely long process. We know the nearby residents are going to have concerns, but let's push that off for another day if and when we need it. It is, right. And again, that's a separate process. The neighbors don't know, but that would go in front of boards other than this board, planning board, town board, then back to the planning board.
And Dan, what is the town's planning department opinion on creating non-conforming lots?
The lot is non-conforming now. Your decision will make it further non-conforming. As the zoning enforcement officer, I'm here to uphold the minimum standards. What the petitioner is asking for is a reduction of something that is further non-conforming.
And again, we acknowledge that, but based on the balancing test and the 5 criteria, and given that we're acknowledging for now it'll be green space, I think there's ample justification.
All right, I'll let the residents have one response. Only one person can respond, and then I'm going to close the hearing.
Hello, Derek Pruitt again on behalf of the residents. Couple things. One is the owners of the Mosey Inn Hotel also own another parcel across the street that could be utilized for your additional parking 2 years down the road, or your land bank, or whatever they care to use it for. At the end of the day, this is residential. It's a residential street. It's zoned residential. You're trying to split up lots to make them non-residential. We're kicking the can down the road. Please. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll close the hearing. Would any member of the board like to make a comment or give their opinion?
My concern, I understand Mosey's desire to Mosey, I think some of the objections that I've heard in the last 2 hearings really, I think, stem more from Mosey being a bad neighbor. I don't, it seems like, okay, because it's there, I know that you had brought up repeatedly about these events, irritation with the events, and in noise and trucks and stuff like that.
All right, we're done with the hearing, so we're done with the hearing.
It doesn't seem to me, it's not like it's moving is 20. You're seeing it already, you're hearing it already. I'm not necessarily convinced that they're going to have a lot of commercial goings on in this additional parcel. I don't know if I can convince you of that. But on the flip side, they're already not conforming.
Would the residents group still have an objection if it remained green space and no parking ever?
The house next door isn't going to stop without that's why
That's not before us, and
That
we
is
can't
Yeah.
contemplate that.
Yes, I would.
So you wouldn't oppose the application if there was no parking ever?
That would not be turned
All right, so would anyone else have a comment on the board? We're done with the hearing, everyone.
Okay, well, I was going to suggest something about
Go on.
So given there's still some resident concerns, and this is not a huge timing issue other than the existing contract, maybe it would be a better idea to actually leave this hearing open once again. Let us meet with the neighbors and let us propose something in writing with conditions. I understand their concerns, and they only saw this plan today or yesterday, so I think it is worthy of additional discussion. There's no urgency here.
Okay.
But then you would have to rescind your resolution to close the hearing, open it back up, and then table it along with the next one for procedurally.
Is there a motion to reopen the hearing? Motion by Member Schubert, second by Member Gergen. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, reopen the hearing. It's motion to adjourn. We just did that. So I rescind. So I rescind that. Yeah. All right, then motion to adjourn. Motion by Member Schubert. Second by Member Gergen. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, that was 43 Linwood. Motion to adjourn 37 Linwood. We never started that one.
Second.
Motion by Member Phillips, second by Member Schubert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that item has been adjourned 5-0. The next item on tonight's agenda is 1692 Maple Road.
Good evening, Sean Hopkins on behalf of the applicant, 1692 Maple Road LLC. This is a continuation of a public hearing you held during your meeting on August 19th. Go next slide. So the site itself is approximately 0.96 acres in size, located at the northeast intersection of Maple Road and Youngs Road, shown on the right-hand side there. What we're proposing here on this site that is currently zoned office building district is a 9,000 square foot surgery center. Next slide. Survey of the project site, and you can see Youngs Road on the bottom, Maple Road on the right, Youngs Road being directly to the west. Next slide. Aerial photograph, and I do want to note the owner of 1700 Maple Road was here during your August 19th meeting, and is here again this evening. He owns a house directly to the east, which is the right of the subject parcel. Next slide. Showing as a blow-up. One of the reasons this site was selected approximately a year ago for this project is obviously its close proximity to other existing healthcare providers, including but not limited to the Millward Fillmore Suburban Hospital. Next slide. So this is the site plan that we presented to you during your meeting on August 19th. 9,000 square foot surgery center, approximately 290 feet back from the rear property line, 36 parking spaces. We are proposing a new 6-foot fence along the common property line, the adjacent parcel at 1700 Maple Road. We've shown a future potential vehicular access connection with that parcel per the request of the Plan Department, and we are showing a single curb cut onto Youngs Road at the location that was selected by the town board as part of its approval of the rezoning and the curb cut during its meeting on April 28th of this year. Next slide. So the variances we were asking pursuant to that original plan were as follows. Medical office building will have a setback of 5 feet from Youngs Road. From the actual paved portion at the closest portion, it's 17.3 feet. We are also requesting a side yard setback from the eastern property line, where the zoning code requires 30 feet, and we're at 15 feet. And then finally, we were asking for an area variance for the mechanical equipment setback, 18 feet from the property line to the east, which is 1700 Maple Road, versus I believe the zoning code requires 35 feet. Next slide. So we did ask that you leave the public hearing open during that meeting so we could have some additional discussions with the owner of 1700 Maple Road. There have been some communications back and forth, including letters and emails. And on September 5th of this month, we did make an updated submission to this board in order to relocate the location of the ground-mounted transformer. And that will be the only above-ground mounted utility structure. Next slide. So what we've done is we've taken that proposed transformer, which was previously located on the northeast side of the building, and moved it as far as possible to the northwest corner of the building. While that triggers the need for a setback variance from Youngs Road, 3.26 feet, and compared to 35 feet, it absolutely maximizes distance of that structure from the adjoining property at 1700 Maple Road. Variance number 1 and variance number 2 remain the same and are absolutely essential to fulfill the goals of this project, meaning there's no way we could redevelop this site as a surgery center and comply with the side yard and front yard setbacks all the way around. I do want to note this is the exact same plan that's been presented to the planning board and the town board previously, with the exception of the relocation of the ground-mounted transformer. Next slide. There's the elevation plan. It is a single-story building with a height significantly less than what would be permitted in the previously existing R3 zoning district. Next slide. Lighting plan showing there'll be no lighting spillover onto the adjoining properties. Next slide. Landscape plan, and I have advised the owner of 1700 Maple Road. The planning board will be holding a continuation of its public hearing during its meeting next Thursday. And if he has any additional input in terms of landscaping, screening, we would certainly entertain that. Next slide. The use is consistent with the adopted bicentennial comprehensive plan, hence the rezoning approved by the town board on April 28th of this year. The comp plan designates the site as appropriate for commercial office use. Next slide. And then finally, the balancing test and the 5 criteria, which require you to balance the benefits that will be received by the applicant if the requested relief is granted, and weigh those benefits against any resulting detriments to the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding neighborhood or community. Criteria number 1, we do think in terms of the requested area variances, especially in light of the change, it will not result in an undesirable change of the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. Criteria number 2, whether the benefits we're seeking can be achieved by some other method feasible for us to pursue other than the requested area variances. And with respect to area variances 1 and 2 pertaining to side yard setback from 1700 Maple Road and side yard setback from Youngs Road, in the absence of those variances, there is absolutely no feasible commercial development of this parcel. Next slide. Whether granting the requested relief is substantial, and the key there, of course, being whether it result in any harm. We think in light of the changes that we've made based on the input received from this zoning board during its meeting on August 19th, that there will not be any harm. Criteria number 4, whether proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. We think in light of the screening and the modifications, the answer to that question is no. I would also note the planning board is independently conducting an environmental review of this project pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And then finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. While it can be viewed that way, I would note with respect to this particular parcel that's existed for decades, if you look at it, there's really no way you can use this parcel in any economically productive manner without coming before this board. Hence, that's what we're doing. So I think with respect to this particular application, criteria number 5 may not weigh against us. So with all that being said, we would ask you grant the requested relief, and I welcome any questions you have or may have.
Is there any questions for the applicant? All right, any member of the audience here to speak on this item, please come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Carissa Chanana, and I'm one of the other owners of 1700 Maple. I learned of this after the first meeting. This property is directly next to 1692 Maple Road. The applicant is asking you to allow their building just 15 feet from our property line. This request is not a simple variance. It violates 3 separate provisions of the town code, and in each case, the variance is significant. The 3 rules that apply: the first is the commercial adjacent to residential, 254B3. In no case shall the side or rear setback be less than the greater of 30 feet or that required for a parcel abutting a non-residential district. The applicant proposes only 15 feet, which is a 50% reduction of the buffer required to protect residential homes. This is extremely significant. Next, we have property line setback, 315.5A4. For buildings with long walls parallel to a lot line, the required setback is 2 times the building height. Example, a 20-foot building requires 40-foot setback. They propose only 15 feet, a 62.5% reduction of the minimum. Again, I think this is significant. Additionally, we have OB dimensional standards 422B. In the OB district, when abutting a residential parcel, the minimum side yard setback is 15 feet for structures up to 30 feet tall. After the sidewalk, the plan leaves only 9 feet of actual side yard green space between pavement and the property line. That's a 40% variance, again significant, and it defeats the very intent of the landscape buffer requirement. Finally, regarding the Youngs Road building setback, they also seek a building setback of only 5 feet along Youngs Road, where zoning ordinance requires 35 feet. That's an 85% reduction of the required buffer. This is not only substantial under the law, it's a direct safety issue. Youngs Road is a heavily traveled road. Reducing the setback to just 5 feet places the building dangerously close to the road edge, making it virtually impossible for drivers to see pedestrians, cyclists, or turning vehicles. It will also create sightline obstructions for cars entering or exiting the site, increasing the likelihood of accidents. Each variance, 50, 62.5, 40, and now 85 along Youngs Road, is substantial by any measure. New York's highest court has made this clear. In matter of IFRA versus Uxig, the Court of Appeals held that variances of 60% or more are undisputably substantial. Similarly, in Dutt versus Bowers, a 57% setback reduction was affirmed as substantial. The reductions before you tonight fall squarely within that same range, and in the case of Youngs Road, far beyond it. I also believe that any claimed hardship is self-created because the property was purchased and designed with full knowledge of these requirements. Also, I think that there are neighborhood and environmental impacts. Allowing these reductions will eliminate the light, air, and privacy that those living on 1700 are entitled to. I do think it will alter the character of that piece of that stretch. It will create serious stormwater concerns and introduce new traffic and safety hazards along a busy road. The site plan changes the natural pitch of the property, channeling runoff directly towards 1700 Maple. The proposed drainage pond may lack the capacity to contain this redirected flow during heavy storms, putting the property at risk of flooding, erosion, and damage. In conclusion, this is not one small variance. It's 4 separate violations of the town code. 254B3 reduced by 50%, 315.5A4 reduced by 62.5%, 422B reduced by 40%, and the Youngs Road setback reduced by 85%. Under New York case law, they are legally substantial. Taken together, they eliminate the very protections your zoning laws were written to provide and introduce real safety concerns along a heavily traveled public road. And I think you would agree, in one of For 280 Gatsville, it was a 40% variance, and a board member did say that that was considered significant. So I respectfully urge you to deny this variance and require the applicant to bring forward a compliant plan.
Could you review the sections of the code you believe that this is violating, in addition to what is being requested here?
Yeah, 2-5-4B3.
Section 3.
I did also. That's one of them. And then 422B. And then, like I said, I think the difficulty was self-imposed.
So, Mr. Yotowski, do you want to?
The required side yard along the east is 30 feet, and the correct statute is cited, section 2-5-4B3 parentheses A. That is the minimum required side yard, 30 feet. Petitioner is seeking relief from that section.
For 18 feet?
30 feet. Yep. I believe the abutting neighbor cited section 3-15, is that correct?
315.5, yeah.
315.5. Those are supplemental residential district design standards. They are not applicable in this situation. This is in the OB, office building district.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Thanks.
Anyone else here to speak on this item? Please come to the podium.
Good evening. Julian Shanana again from 1700 Maple Road. I spoke to you all the last meeting. My views on this project have not changed regarding the variances. Obviously, the variances are significant. There is detriment to my property in particular, which is directly next to the proposed project. Again, it being a hardship, this lot was chosen and designed specifically for this project and specifically disregarding any of those zoning codes. And it's just not well planned. I mean, I don't know what other way to say it. They're banking on the board here giving them the variances just because, even though they had significant time, as Mr. Hopkins said, over a year to plan this project, and they could have done whatever they could to minimize those variances, but they kind of just disregarded them completely. The other thing I would like to mention is just that, you know, this is a commercial property that's butting up to a residential property, and just the fact of that could significantly decrease the value of my property. Just having a residence directly next to a 9,000 square foot commercial building. I don't have anything else. I do know that Mr. Hopkins and his team, they did change variance number 3 to try to get that mechanical equipment away from my property, which I do appreciate. I can't agree with the other variances.
Variance 3, you don't oppose at this point, if we were to look at that one, because it is further from your property. I just want to take one at a time.
No, I understand. And I have much less of an issue with variance number 3, obviously with it being, I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 3.
From Young's Road, so we're
3,
more than compliant.
right. I think it's like 3.5 feet, I think, from the road or something like that, which would be the only concern, but it doesn't directly affect me. Correct.
Variance number 1, which is, again, on the far side of what would be the building, the far side from your property, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I think the other resident that just spoke, her concern was that this might be a traffic issue or a traffic safety issue. Do we know if there was that issue addressed? I'm assuming this does not violate the clear vision triangle?
It is outside of the clear visibility area.
Consider read by the traffic safety.
So if, in light of that, since it's already, that portion has already gone under review, addressing the other residents' concern, do you have an objection, a continued objection to variance one?
I do, and the reason is the size of the entire plan and it disregarding, sorry, and it,
I gotta stop you there, because we're not here to look at the size
sorry.
of the plan.
Okay, yes,
We're here to look at the deviation.
yes, I do oppose to the variance one.
All right, so you're opposing it, the building being closer to Young's Road, which is further from your property.
Correct.
Okay, how does that affect you and your property?
Just with the detriment to the neighborhood itself, creating such a large building,
And variance two, I know you still oppose, and I believe you spoke to us at the last hearing, you were concerned about cooling water and things. So
Correct.
I know you're still dead set against variance.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to see if we were still.
Thank you.
All right, is anyone else here to speak on this item? Mr. Hopkins, would you like an opportunity for a rebuttal?
Yeah, my only response is, again, I respect the opinion of the adjoining property owner at 1700 Maple Road, but it's important to reiterate, the town, not us, has determined that this should be a commercial area. The comprehensive plan says that. So while they have a nice single-family home, and I appreciate they have a nice single-family home, it's well-maintained, somewhere down the road, what the town is saying, not us, is that should be a commercial stretch. You've seen that via the land use decisions that have been made over the course of the past 10 to 20 years, including the rezoning of 1760 Maple Road, which is further towards Maple Air, et cetera. We think we've made reasonable accommodations by moving the transformer. In terms of further modification of the building from the property line to the east, that would cut into the square footage we need. We also do need a certificate of need from the New York State Health Department. In terms of drainage, we have engineering approval, meaning the engineering department has looked at the fully engineered plans and confirmed we have compliance. And then finally, in terms of traffic, as was indicated, we do comply with what's known as the clear vision triangle. And if you think of that stretch of Maple and Young's in that intersection, it's a very busy intersection. We deliberately did not propose any curb cut onto Maple Road, which would have resulted in a driveway next to the adjoining property owner in a building that would be on the back part of the property and face Young's Road, because clearly from a traffic management perspective, that would not be a good idea. You'd be in the functional area of that intersection. So we think that we've addressed the criteria. And then finally, the case law that was cited for the premise that any request for an area variance that's over a 50% deviation from the zoning code, that's not 100% accurate. The case law, including the original case, Sasso versus Osgood, 1993 Court of Appeals case, Cohen versus Kern, which originated in the Fourth Department, clearly say that with respect to substantiality, you look at the harm, whether or not the grant of the requested relief will result in any harm. And I would also note that we are proposing only a single-story building with a height that does not exceed the height of the adjoining ranch by very much. So, we've made that effort. I do appreciate their concerns. Again, if they have further comments for the planning board in terms of screening, landscaping, et cetera, we welcome that, but we do think this is a good project. And again, the layout has remained unchanged since day one.
Member Schubert has a question for you, Mr. Hopkins.
Was consideration, or can you consider, right now the building is virtually a square.
It is.
Why wasn't it made into a rectangle so it fit?
Well, so we need to make sure that we have the required number of parking spaces that we're showing. Obviously, in that area, there's no opportunities for off-site parking.
Can you push the parking north?
No, because we were asked by the town to provide a 30-foot green space area in the back based on the input received from the adjoining property owners to the north. And there actually is some pretty substantial vegetation there. To a large degree, This site has no trees, but the back 30 feet actually has some decent vegetation that we're attempting to preserve. The only other thing I can think of, and I haven't ran this by my client, is I don't know what the appetite would be for the adjoining property owner or the board if we did make it a little bit more rectangular and push the front yard setback a little bit closer to Maple Road. But we'd be willing to entertain that if that's something both this board and the adjoining property owner would like us to do. Again, it would require you to leave the hearing open and for us to come back.
And I would recommend you, if that is something you do desire, the petitioner will then need relief from the front yard setback,
Right,
because there's a 90-foot setback from the center line of
Yeah,
Maple.
I want to make that clear. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
of
Rizzo.
course.
That right. It would require additional relief from this board. So I know there's no way we could make it so that we have a 30-foot setback, but could we increase that side yard setback from 15 to 20 or 22 or 25? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if everyone wants to take a look at it, including the adjoining property owner, we'd be willing to do that.
How much space is there, I asked this last time, but I don't remember, between the lot line and the adjoining home? It looks like it's more than 15 feet.
Well, so we're showing a side yard setback of 15 feet. I would say their house is probably another 15 feet. It's probably 30 feet between the two structures. You can actually, I had them on the site plan, put the footprint of their building. Approximately 30 feet between the two buildings.
It's like there might be more than that.
Yeah, not a lot more.
Yeah,
They have a ranch that's fairly wide on that parcel, as ranches always are. But their house does comply with the setback. So if you'd like us to look at that, we can. It would mean, again, coming back again next month, but if that's a worthwhile endeavor, I'll go back to the project architect and the engineer.
I'm just not convinced that will appease the neighbors. I think the neighbors are dead set against the project, no matter what.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for the neighbors, but really, the only thing that has potentially any impact on them is the side yard setback on their property.
Right.
Meaning, we've now relocated the transformer, so it's twice what the zoning code would require. And the setback from Young's Road just doesn't have any impact on them as the immediate property owner, adjoining property owner.
All right, thank you. We'll close the hearing now. So, everyone, can give their opinion, but my thought is that it is
Mr. Chair, could you use your microphone? I don't know. It doesn't sound like it's on.
it's on.
Okay.
So my feeling is that this is a property, a parcel that the town has made a priority for commercial use. What is being proposed seems like an appropriate structure for the property. That area looks like it is in transition from a residential use beforehand to what's going to be commercial use in the future, and that this is probably another step in that progress to get there. But when I look at this project, it looks like an totally appropriate use for that property.
I would agree. I think and I appreciate the residents' presentation. The one that I see it being most at issue is obviously the setback adjacent to their property, and I'm satisfied that the town's review of that and ruling out the issues that the residents raised in concern with that variance. I don't necessarily, I agree with you, Chairman. I don't think the journey is going to leave us any differently situated than we already are.
Would anyone else like to give an opinion, agreeing or disagreeing?
I agree with your comments.
I move to approve all three variance requests.
Motion by Member Phillips,
Second.
second by Member Gergen. Could we get a roll call vote on this?
Chairman Bray?
Yes.
Vice Chair Schubert?
No.
Member Phillips?
Yeah.
Member Parker? McGurgan.
Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. 4-1, I'm sorry. All right, the next item on tonight's agenda is 60 Smith Road. Would the applicant please come to the podium?
That's,
Good evening. Jacob Metzger, Metzger Civil Engineering at 8245 Sheridan Drive in Williamsville. Also with me are the owners and applicants of the proposal, Kevin and Holly Weiss. If you remember, this project was before you last meeting, and it was adjourned for various comments so that we could work through some of the issues of the residents. The project's located at 60 Smith Road. My clients have lived there for decades. Single-family home, surrounded by a neighborhood of single-family homes. As we stated before, they love the area, they love the town, they want to stay there, but they don't need the large house anymore. They want to downsize, empty nesters. The best solution they came up with was to put an addition onto a structure they have in the back, an existing garage, and they want to put the house, build a house onto that existing garage and live in the rear of that property. In order to do so, we need we're asking two requests of this board, one being a area variance for lot width. The existing lot is only 138 feet. It is a non-conforming lot now, and lot width in the SA district is required to be 200 feet. So we would need an area variance from this board for that. The second request that we have before you is to allow an open development area in accordance with the New York State law, and that would be to provide the house on a lot that does not have access to a public roadway. We looked at the project and we thought the best way to accommodate all of the questions and concerns from neighbors, as well as provide the least amount of impact to the existing conditions now, would be to not have the driveway on the east property line directly adjacent to the owners to the east, and in fact use the existing driveway that's there now, and the driveway continues all the way to the back of for access to the existing garage now. So what we would propose is some modifications to the existing driveway to make it in compliance with the New York State Fire Code. But the infrastructure is there, the driveway's there now. We would simply use that driveway to access the back of the property. There would need to be easements in place, obviously, to allow people to access the property to the rear. So that's the change that you see before you tonight, as opposed to last meeting. We can answer any questions that you guys might have.
So on the draft resolution, there were, for the area variance, there were 3 conditions that the town produced that they recommended based on our feedback to them. I just want to read the 3 into the record. The petitioner utilized and improved the existing driveway along the west side of the existing parcel to access the proposed rear parcel shown on the attached exhibit, and that such driveway provide unobstructed access through the existing parcel via a perpetual access easement to be reviewed and approved by the town law departments. The second is the petitioner provide a drainage grading plan to be reviewed and approved by the town engineering services department as part of his or her building permit application, and that the petitioner screen the proposed turnaround on the rear parcel with trees or hedges to minimize any light nuisance for the adjacent neighbors. So that was based on the comments that we had heard at the last meeting to minimize the harm to the neighbors. So just want to make you guys aware of that and see if you have any comment on those proposed conditions.
No, we've reviewed the conditions, and we would be accepting of any of those conditions if they would be applied.
Does any member of the board have a question for the applicant? All right, is any member of the public here to speak on this item? See people pointing to each other.
Good evening, Kevin Cullinan. Once again, I spoke the last time at the hearing. I mean, the only other thing I'm really, concerned about is once you set the precedence of a flag lot, which was basically what this is, with no frontage, who's to stop anybody on the whole road from doing the same thing? I mean, we all own property like that, and we can all put a driveway along the side and then have, the same thing going on. I mean, I feel once you set this precedence, you're opening up anyone to the same thing. Typically in other towns, it's not allowed. So, that's about it.
Thank you. Come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Michael Davis. I live at 2931 Hopkins Road. Our properties adjoin. And I just have a couple questions. One, the area is a bit of a wetland, designated as wetland. They've done, the applicants have done other projects in the neighborhood, including the house I live in. And they did everything they could to offset the construction of my house to take care of all the water. They did the best that they could, but it's impossible to accommodate all of that water, and it has caused some damage to structures of our neighbors. With the project being close to our house, just wondering how that's going to be mitigated. Also, when we bought the house from the applicants, there is an easement that runs along through our property that goes over to this proposed project. And they've assured me that they would not use the easement for the utilities. Just wondering if that is in writing, if that's the plan, and if for some reason that changes, what can we do about that? And I think that was it. Those were my big questions. And
So you bought
from them, yes, yes.
was your property split off? Was there a division, do you know? Or was it, and if you don't, that's
No,
fine.
I think I'm answering your question. Tell me if I'm wrong. So the original property that we bought was originally 2 acres. And then before they did construction on the site, they took off 0.42 acres, I think, which was the property that was adjoining their property and our original property. We closed on 2931 Hopkins, and then later we repurchased that parcel that they had separated. Yeah. So does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
So on your questions, I can't speak to the second, but on the first, they're going to have to prepare a plan and give that to the town engineering department to review the drainage for the property. So that is what we're recommending as a condition to alleviate any issues that may arise. So, and then I will let the applicant make a final comment on the easement question, as well as any other sort of rebuttal to a question that came up during the public comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, as you said, the drainage, that's a condition, and for justifiable reasons. We don't want to create any adverse impacts for drainage, and the engineer, the town engineer, the engineering department will review that plan and approve it ultimately. There absolutely are allowed flag lots in New York State. There is a New York State law, open development law. That's what's before you. Each individual situation is unique, and it becomes before the board each and every time. This is a unique situation and one that we feel justified in asking for. We can go through the 5 steps, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
All right, is there any final questions by a member of the board? All right, we'll close the hearing for now then.
Before you consider, I just want to remind the board that you're acting on 3 matters here. First of which is the secret determination for the open development area. Then I ask that you act on the open development area request, and then the lot width or area variance request. Thank you.
Yeah, so the first would be the negative deck for the open development area. Is there a motion on the negative deck? Move to approve. Motion by member Schubert, is there a second?
Second.
Second by member Gergen on the negative deck. All in favor of the negative deck, say aye. Aye. Passes 4-1. The next item would be the open development area.
Move to approve.
I just want to remind the board for the open development area, if you look at the resolution before you, there are two conditions at the request of the fire inspector pursuant to New York State Fire Code. One of which is that the proposed dwelling be equipped with a residential fire suppression system. And number two, that a private yard hydrant be installed, unless, of course, a state variance is obtained from the New York State Board of Review to waive the requirement for the yard hydrant.
Member Schubert, do you want to amend your motion to
include those.
with the two conditions?
Conditions, yes.
And would that also include the conditions that were raised
That would be
earlier
the next.
in the next one?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by member Gergen. Could I get a roll call?
Chairman Bray?
Yes.
Vice Chair Schubert?
Yes.
Phillips?
No.
Member Parker?
Yes.
Okay, now on the last item for the 60 Smith Road, is there a motion
I'll move it.
with the three conditions?
Absolutely.
Motion by member Schubert,
Second.
second by member Gergen. Could I get a roll call?
Chairman Bray?
Yes.
Vice Chair Schubert?
Yes.
Member Phillips?
No.
Member Parker? Member Gergen?
Yes.
That passes 3-0. 3-2, I'm sorry. Can't add this afternoon, this evening.
Evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right, could we get a motion to adjourn the meeting then?
I'll move.
Motion by member Schubert,
Second.
second by member Phillips. All in favor of adjourning the meeting? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, adjourned, 5-0.